10-pound packages, and the bloaters, 18-pound packages, to all over the world. You know, you probably go back further in history to precede this business, and there was already businesses going on with salt cod. You were talking about salt cod before. Mm-hmm. So the all new thinking about the history of that year, those eras, they're thinking now that these people from Spain, northern Spain, they believe that the Basques were able to maintain a secret traveling route to this part of the world, to the Maritimes, and were able to catch cod here and set up summer places where they could dry it on rocks and hang it and do different things, and then bring it back to Europe. And then the English and the French are all saying, you know, where is all this fish coming from? These Basques seem to have they always seem to have a good product, and they always seem to have fish, you know. And it seems that the thinking now is that for several hundred years, the Basque fishermen kept that information to themselves, and they were coming over here. Mm-hmm. So that you had the beginnings of this European getting used to smoke different kinds of fish, processed protein that's been stabilized, let's use that word, for times of famine. Because that's always been the age-old thing, huh? What do? We have this bountiful situation, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and now we're starving to death. So that early the Basques was solving part of that protein problem for Europeans with a different food stock.
And when was that now? Was that like...
Well, the new thinking is that it could have been as before even Leif Erikson. There's an interesting writer. He wrote a book called Cod, and then he followed it up with a book called Salt. Kurlansky is his name, and they're actually wonderful books. And there's something else I like to point out to the people. The people here, the people who grew up here and made this industry happen, and their descendants who are friends of mine now, all of the people here, we have the Ingalls, Junior Ingalls, one of the man who put together the Ware with his granddaughter, and Fisher Green. They sort of think of artists as like a frivolous lot. You know, they tolerate us, but they would never consider themselves to be artists. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, now Fisher, take a look at this wheel. Yeah. You know, look at the color. This goes well beyond function. Mm-hmm. You know, you didn't really have to get this ornate with the design, and you certainly didn't with the painting, with the colors of the paint. You know, so I say, you guys are really artists, you just don't want to admit it. Now, how about this net? That's an interesting net. So once again, we're going back to early ware fishing now when we talk about this net. If you look inside this net, you'll see a rope. See that rope swinging there? Yeah. That was attached to the bottom here. So then you could pull up from the bottom and just sort of slide those fish in, and you'd fill up the whole boat. You're sitting with fish all around you now. Yeah. You know, but the wares, if you notice around Grand Manan, are all fairly close to shore. Mm-hmm. So it's not like great distances, but the fishermen with that type of fishing, as well as the dulcers today, if you watch the dulcers, they really fill those boats up to about, you know, if you put like a bowling ball in there, you're going down. You know, when they fill it up to the max, sometimes really take a chance. You get a little dangerous trying to maximize that one tide, you know. But they do it. The other interesting thing about this net, you know, before 1937, everything that in the maritime industry, fishing industry, anything to do with boats, you needed rope and you needed nets and you needed lines. It was all made out of natural fibers. So it was made out of either sisal or cotton or hemp. So those three products pretty much took care of most of the rope making. This one happens to be cotton. So what that meant is if you would introduce any of those materials into salt water, they wouldn't last very long at all. They'd break probably on the first or second day that you're using them. So that meant you had to take that string before you started doing anything with it and tar it. So you'd have to treat it, either oil it or tar it, every single line on every single boat. I mean, it's just mind-boggling when you think of it, that labor intensity. Things changed after 1937 because DuPont got the patent for synthetics. And it changed the world. It was one of those sort of earth-shattering, just in time for World War II. So DuPont was, there's a little town in Mexico, Merida, on the Yucatan Peninsula, which at one time boasted more millionaires than any other city in the world. So, but after 1937, those millionaires either hit rock bottom or they invested their money in DuPont Corporation. As refrigeration comes in, the smoked herring industry goes out. How many people were on the island? I couldn't really say. I think there's about 2,700 now, but that's no indication, I mean, of what it actually was. I really don't know what the I should know. I read Eric Allaby's book. I'm sure it's contained in that, but I don't know. Anybody else know what the population was in the 1880s? Or?
I think it's been pretty consistent.
Pretty consistent around 2,000, 2,500, between 2,000 and 3,000.
So would like children be doing this kind of work?
Yes, children, everybody that's over 30 years on this island now that you bump into and talk to, you can pretty much guarantee they did something in this industry. Have you seen a sardine can selection yet?
No.
Come on, let's take a walk. One more little bit.